Well, hello there, and welcome to the very first episode of Los Angeles Design and Dev Podcast. I am your host, Corey Park, and today I'll be talking to Frank Bach, product designer at Instagram and Meta, and creator of the Los Angeles Design and Dev Slack community. He'll be talking with us about his background, his time running his own studio, developing his own personal brand, and his own merch brand, his public speaking, and his public yelling in his hardcore band Monk. This podcast is sponsored by EMA Members Lounge and Social Club in Culver City, a beautiful home away from home where you can work or socialize and check out their periodic events and activities. You can learn more at emamembers.com. That's IMA members.com. Thank you, EMA, and thank you for listening. And without further ado, let's meet Frank. So yeah, I figured we'd start with saying hello. Hello.
Cool. Hey.
Good morning.
Hey.
How was traffic?
It was really not bad at all. Dropped my kid off at school and gave myself plenty of time. I try to feel like I've learned that lesson over 10 years in LA is just be like 10, 15 minutes before you need to be there. Yeah. It's kind of like old school mentality, but
never know.
Yeah. There's always something.
I literally Waze it everywhere I go just in case.
Yeah. It's a pro move. I think it's shows a little bit of maturity. not just like leaving it to Google Maps to get you there at the last minute.
Give a little padding.
Yeah.
So what part of LA are you in?
I'm in Leimert Park, South Central. So it's not West Side. It's not east of downtown. It's pretty much right in the middle.
Right in the middle. Yeah.
Historic area. Yeah.
Cool. And where are you from originally?
I grew up in Canada, north of Toronto, in a town called Sudbury, Ontario. And that's kind of where I got my start in, classic graphic communication design. Mm-hmm. And, went to school there and kicked off my career. And, at some point, always thought I'd move to a bigger city and, just kind of the years went by and I don't know if I got lazy or what happened, but I've got a younger sister and she moved to the big city and it kind of put the fire under my butt of like,
nice.
Wait a second. It's kind of got to happen now or it's going to get harder to make a big move in the future.
Right. Yeah. So it was a small town.
Yeah. But like small-ish, like 200,000 people. Not like here.
Right.
Yeah.
That's cool. So you came to the big city and you were already doing like design stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to transition from basically graphic and web design into more like product and, like the education, like school situation. They're not really able to keep up with the pace of the industry, I've found. So like at that time, I didn't really know about boot camps or all that stuff. And where I was living, it wasn't really a thing. So I just like immersed myself as much as I could in product design. And there was a podcast called Design Details. Mm-hmm. It was with this guy, Brian Levin. Like, I think I listened to one episode every day until I made it through the whole thing. It was just like, I had a portfolio site and I killed all the graphic design work, barely kept the web design work and just started making my own kind of self-starter projects. And then, basically that was a bit of a hacked together product portfolio and it was enough to,
Find you something.
Yeah. A little bit of luck and a little bit of effort.
Sounds like a lot of effort.
I guess so.
And strategy too.
It was intentional. It was like I talked to a lot of people who are trying to make that switch or who have made that switch and they struggle with like kind of removing the old kind of because it's hard for companies to really know where to put you. If you show up and you've got a marketing portfolio with a little bit of product, it's like, well, the teams are very siloed, so it's very, and I know we all want to be generalists, and we're all probably generalists in some way.
Yeah.
But when it comes to playing the kind of the corporate game, it's really it's about kind of where they can fit you.
So you put your stuff together, and then did you just like jump right into like corporate stuff, or?
Yeah, well, I mean, I went on the job hunt I was like 25 years old. Went on the job hunt for the first time, I think, in my whole life because I graduated college. And just spun up my own little studio, a freelance job here and there. And all of a sudden you're pretty booked, had, handfuls of clients and just kind of kept that going for years.
Okay. So freelance.
Yeah. And then eventually it was like a small team of like 5-6 people. Oh, wow. And that kind of was tough to shut down because you're your own boss. And, but I really didn't have any of the, any experience in a corporate environment. So even things like structure, I had no idea what I was doing. And, I was invoicing and pitching and presenting work and doing work, and that was enough to kind of keep the lights on for, a good amount of time. And then like kind of unlearning some of that and then figuring out how to be a senior designer in a company. That was a bit of a trip.
So you just went, when you made the jump into corporate, you just like came in at the senior level.
Yeah. Which I think made sense, but it was a weird, like, my LinkedIn looks funny because it's like, you're like the founder of a thing. And then, but I think nowadays it's a lot more normal.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, especially if you had a team and you were already, managing at that level. Really.
But I was definitely self-conscious about it, just like, okay, I guess I'm senior designer now. I guess, I'll take it. But, it was a big transition, in a new country, totally new environment, getting to a place like LA where you don't, it's kind of a transient city. People don't tend to really get to know each other, and people, spend a few years trying to make the dream happen and then kind of go back to, back to Ohio or wherever they came from. Yeah.
So your independent stuff, was that like for startups or for corporations or?
Mostly small to medium businesses and a lot of nonprofits.
Oh, nice.
I guess being in Ontario, Canada, there's, the government funds quite a bit of, cultural stuff, museums, art galleries, things like that. And
must be nice.
Yeah, it was cool. Even musicians get, there's a lot of funding you can apply for and that kind of thing. So we had a nice little niche there where we were working with a lot of cultural organizations, and, you say they're technically nonprofits, but, they get funded pretty decently.
Yeah.
Once we had a little, book of business with those kind of customers, that was, was a good run. But again, it was mostly brand, mostly print kind of work, a little bit of web, and I'd always be trying to inch them more towards like, hey, we should make an app to do this thing, or you're doing a series of music events. Why don't we make the website more interactive? Like maybe people can do more than just buy tickets. Maybe the website has an experiential kind of component. Yeah. But it was always a struggle to like push them a little further. And
did any of those hit? Did you do anything that kind of went viral or anything?
Maybe not viral. There was one. We did a full like brand wayfinding and like experiential thing for a museum called Science North, and it was an exhibit on King Tut.
Oh, nice.
And like Egyptian stuff.
I think that one came down here.
Yeah, there's been a few of them, and now that I see them, I can clock it. Like, I know that's like a touring exhibit, and I learned so much about like how that stuff works and how how the museum and art gallery world works. But that was a really fun project in the way that not only were we doing like digital stuff, but we also did like a bus wrap in the city. Nice. Yeah. So like learning, just working with the print shops and like going to check that out, making sure like the bus was, we measured everything correctly. Like pretty big expensive print mistakes to make. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's cool. Like branching out into those different formats and things.
Totally. I think it, coming from a brand kind of background, when I'm in the product space, like I really see, I worked at Headspace for a while, the meditation app, and I kind of see the app and the brand, even though internally they're like two separate teams. Like to the customer, they're the same thing. The app is the brand is the product. So I try to bring that into my roles and into the companies I work for, and I think it's a little bit of a little differentiator. And in this like MVP first kind of environment, people don't tend to put that effort into brand right away. Like you try to find product market fit first, try to like, get an audience, start making some money, and then invest in brand. But I am seeing a lot of stuff maybe on like on X or Instagram of like companies who are specializing in that like early stage brand. I'm seeing a lot of these like brand design sprints, like 2 weeks and we'll get you, like a full identity package, which is pretty wild. Like that didn't really exist 5-10 years ago.
Well, I think, you sort of need it now because of the saturation and you need to stand out because there's just too much out there to like fit in and do like a templated looking thing.
Yeah, totally.
So then you started the Slack channel. Where did that come from?
Oh yeah. Well, that was kind of solving my own problem, which I think is like a thing a lot of designers do. um, I I got to LA about 10 years ago, started a job, no community, had a few friends, like the 3 people who sat around me at work. And, that was a little bit of a kind of a, it's a bit of a lonely experience getting to a new city and trying to figure out what is your social circle and where do creative people hang out. And, I couldn't really quite find that. I think there was kind of like that creative mornings group, that was pretty big at the time, but it leans a little more graphic designy and not so much product. I was living out in Playa Vista, so I knew that this kind of like the Silicon Beach kind of thing was happening, and I'd been hearing about like, okay, there's a new Google headquarters, there's a Snap office nearby, so that was kind of happening, and I had this big idea of, and again, this is like perfectionist mindset of like, I want to start a community of some kind, and maybe it would be like a series of conferences or a jobs board, or like blow it up to be this like, this big thing.
Right.
And then that got kind of overwhelming, and I thought, well, I have a full-time job already. I don't really need another full-time job. That's kind of crazy, but I tend to do that to myself. And I thought, you know what? If I've learned something from working in product, is like starting MVP first, try to find an audience, try to find, is there even traction here to do anything? Mm-hmm. And so I guess we started it pretty like grassroots. Yeah. And I just spun up a Slack group, Slack channels, and texted the link to a few friends who were in the industry, and blasted it on Twitter and LinkedIn, and it was just kind of like an open invite. Anybody could come in. And I don't know if it was just like a really boring afternoon. It was like a Wednesday, I think, or a Thursday, just like an afternoon where people were online, like slacking from their job. And people just started flooding in. Like, it just started happening. Like by the second day, I think we had at least 500 or 600 people in there, and the conversation was just buzzing. Like
right after you immediately had sent out the links,
it was instant.
So just caught.
Yeah, and then I was like, wow, I'm really glad I didn't spend all this time building up like an event series, and because I think community first is a good way to start, and then kind of let it organically shape itself.
Sure.
So that was like the online component, and I think we're coming close to like 5,000 people in there.
Oh, wow.
And they're not everyone is active, for sure. And I'm sure there's a good chunk who don't even live here anymore. But it's a nice community. And then we started to do the meetups to have a little bit of like a in-person events kind of vibe to it, which are like definitely not conferences. They're more like
definitely not. Yes. Yes. I've been to a few, and there was never any sort of like, you have to prove that you're in LA.
There's a rough like code of conduct that, I enforce if there's like somebody really misbehaving or like spamming, I'll enforce it, but we're pretty loose about, I also want to be open to people who maybe don't live here, who want to get a view of how things are. And like, maybe they'll be convinced, maybe they never thought of living in LA when they think of tech, and I certainly didn't. I was always looking at, Seattle, San Francisco, like the Palo Altos and those kind of cities. Even Vancouver, right? Because I was in Canada, I thought maybe they would have a little bit more of a tech scene. And then when the offer to move to LA came up, I was like, really? I never really considered it, but that, good climate, good culture.
Yeah.
I grew up skateboarding. It sounds great. I'd love to be here.
Nice. Yeah, it's great. So you're at like 5,000 members. I see a lot of people coming on like when they're getting ready to move. So I think that's really nice for people to have that way to connect before they get here.
Right. Yeah, we've had a few new joiners who are like, hey, like I'm moving in from Colorado. I'll be there in a few weeks, or or I'm starting to think of moving there. Any tips, any neighborhoods I should avoid or whatever, or like anybody hiring?
Yeah.
And that's been cool. I love seeing even in a kind of a tough economy, the jobs channel is pretty active.
So it kind of blew up, and then did it just level off, or?
Yeah. I think it leveled off, and then it's been kind of like a slow grow. I'd say whenever we have, like, there's a constant trickling in of people, pretty much. And then anytime we have events, that seems to be like a good like kind of 50-ish new people
Pushes
come in.
people.
Yeah. And you get like, sometimes I'm surprised because I'll go to the events and I'll talk to people and they don't even know there's a Slack.
Oh, really?
The people in the Slack know there's events,
right?
But not always the other way around. And I guess they've discovered it either through like the Eventbrite or the Luma or whatever the platform is.
Wherever people are signing up.
Yeah, and they sign up for an in-person event to maybe network and see what's out there. But they don't connect the dots that there's a Slack. So I'm trying to figure out how to, maybe there's a roll-up banner with a QR code or something at the event. I don't know, some way to connect the two
Is it
worlds.
mentioned in the event?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
It is. Though I did, it used to be just anybody could come in, open invite, open link.
Mm-hmm.
But for any new joiners, I've now added like an annual subscription. It's small. It's $20 a year. I think it's pretty reasonable. The value's there.
Definitely some value there.
Yeah.
Because there's design, there's dev, there's product, and a lot of other stuff too.
Right.
I mean,
or if you're a recruiter, that's a gold mine of talent,
sure.
But yeah, I also think the people who have been in the community for years, I don't think I'm going to go hit them up for the for the subscription.
So they're grandfathered in.
I think so.
Nice.
I think people would appreciate that.
Has there been any like insights just sort of to the industry that you've gleaned from watching it grow and being involved with it?
I'd say every time we have a meetup, I probably learn a little something new, or just like get a new view of the industry in LA and how it works. There's definitely a concentration of kind of the more agency kind of studio type designers, kind of east of downtown, like the kind of the Echo Park, Highland Park, like Northeast LA. That's a little more ad agency type designers. And then West Side is a little more techie for sure.
Interesting.
We've tried events on the West Side. They do okay. I think downtown does better because it's more central. And if you're really willing to, I don't know if we'll get people from the West to go east, but they'll at least go central.
I feel like it's the opposite because I'm on the West and I'm always going east.
Okay,
'cause that's where there's cool stuff to do.
True. That's true. True.
I mean, people on the east, I have a hard time getting them out here.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, it's been years since we've tried anything on the West Side, so I could maybe give that another shot.
Yeah, I actually joined from one of your creative morning talks.
Okay, wow.
Because I know you were doing like kind of a talk, and then I think I saw you at a TikTok thing.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot about the TikTok one. That was an interesting one.
That was weird.
It was like a week before COVID.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and it was like product design influencers, kind of all over the map.
Yeah, there was a guy painting outside.
Yeah. They had a meditation that was
right.
Like actually pretty intense. The headphones.
Yeah.
Like that was actually.
Oh, I'm so surprised to hear you were there. That feels like a lifetime ago.
Yeah. For sure. I mean, pre-COVID.
Yeah.
Do you remember that talk?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. It was like, so I've done a lot of talks in the design world, talks about design, talks about creativity.
Yeah.
I thought, this is something I enjoyed doing. It's always been kind of a nice little side gig and gets me out of the house. And sometimes they'll cover your travel and stuff. So, I'm heading to Vienna in October.
Oh, nice.
And, it's not a huge money maker, but it's a nice little trip to Vienna.
Heck yeah.
Kind of scratches the travel bug.
On your for your latest talk?
Yeah. And so I try to look at the talks as like, I want to have a design specific talk to speak to designers. I wanted to have something that was a little bit more like creativity focused. And then maybe something that's more applicable to like general workplace. And I think since I worked at Headspace for like 7 years, being around that world of like wellness and mindfulness, that like just seeped into, like some people become their job, like your job becomes your personality.
Sure.
I think I for sure fell into that, and that like I was like obsessed.
Well, don't they do like daily meditations over there, right?
Yeah, totally. But like if you can connect to the content and the product and just like love the thing you're working on, you're gonna, that job's gonna be easy for you. So
for sure.
I think I'll be chasing that my whole career of like trying to connect my obsessions and interests with my work.
100%.
So the talk that I gave was, it was like 20 mindful tips, I believe.
Right.
And they were just kind of like, just like one after the other, kind of just.
But design sort of related and work related.
Work related, like things in the workplace. We connecting it a little bit to like creativity, but also like how can you be more present during meetings? How can you, what are tips and tricks you can use to kind of separate, if you're working from home, your workspace from your home life, and it's kind of all over the place, but it seemed to land pretty well. And I've given it a bunch of times to, not just events, but also internally to companies. I think I did that talk to people at Twitter right before the Elon kind of takeover.
Oh, really?
They were like, they were not in good shape. They were stressing. So I usually come in at like a moment of stress within a company where there's a lot of change, and they're kind of like, they need somebody to, the managers are kind of at a loss for what to do, and they want somebody to come in and kind of make people feel mellow.
Yeah, I mean, it was a cool talk. I remember hearing it at the Creative Mornings, and just it landing pretty well.
Nice. Yeah, totally. And Creative Mornings was definitely, it was like a career highlight for sure. Of like, it was always something I looked at from afar, and like, wow, I'm living in a small town in Canada, and I'm seeing these people getting together in Brooklyn and Los Angeles, and like,
I think it was worldwide.
It's worldwide, yeah. And just seeing that, like, always feeling like I was observing the world from the outside and not actually like in it. I don't know if you can relate, since you're native to here, and if like there's a few cities in the world where just culture happens and everything happens. Mm-hmm. So being able to kind of like tick that box, I was really proud of myself. And then the other one I think was it was during COVID. I did Figma Config, even though it was all virtual, not in person. That was another one where I was like, well, I did Creative Mornings, I did Figma Config. I think I'll take a break on doing these kind of talks, because I feel like where else do you go from here? I was just so,
But you kept doing them.
I have a little bit. I've slowed down quite a lot.
Yeah. Do you think that's important to have like a personal brand?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think it's one of the most important things. I think everyone has one already. It just depends on how hard you want to go on that. And, there's levels of cringe for sure. Like, you want to be like the nonchalant kind of like, maybe you've got maybe a color palette and a couple like logos
maybe
or typefaces.
Logo.
Yeah. Even for some people, the logo thing is a little bit tough but I think personal brand just comes back to like, how do you make people feel? How do they talk about you when you're not in the room? How are you perceived, at the workplace? And it's not just, I think we talk a lot in the industry about like external facing stuff, like, Twitter, Instagram, the portfolio sites, whatever, Behance, that kind of stuff.
Right.
But like, how are you perceived internally is really important, especially if you're in the corporate world. And I've definitely struggled with that balance a little bit of going so heavily on the kind of the social media part, and then suffering a little bit on the internal within the company kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, if you're already somewhere, then then there's the internal thing. But if you are freelance or you're looking to do stuff, then you want to build that brand and position yourself as an expert and do those sorts of things, and have your little kind of, I mean, we were talking about like your mustache. Yeah.
It's part of the brand. Yeah. All these pieces, your facial hair, how you dress, and
the mustache is coming back though, right?
It'll come back.
Okay.
It sounds silly to say, but your Zoom background, the square behind your head, like if you're showing up and, you've got, not that you need to be like super obsessive with things like that.
Right.
But I think we're still in a pretty 50-50 remote world.
For sure.
But if I show up to a call and I want to be taken seriously, and I'm using my laptop camera and it's a corner angle and you can see all the chaos going on behind me, like that's not a good look on the personal brand side. You look like you're losing control.
It's dim, you can barely see yourself. It's grainy.
Yeah. So I think that's a pro tip, especially for younger designers, is like taking that stuff seriously I think is a good move.
Yeah. And being consistent and
Yeah.
and maybe sticking to a look.
Yeah, totally. You can drive yourself crazy for sure. But they're especially in a kind of an AI world that we're moving towards, where like technically, like, you know, maybe not yet, but I think we're getting to a place where like anybody can kind of do anything.
Right.
We can build anything quickly, like not perfectly, but you know, you can hack stuff together. You can find product market fit sooner. You can develop brand identities. You can create illustration, photography. Like all these tools are incredible tools. So when everyone has access to all the tools, what is the thing that differentiates you? And it's going to be your perspective, your opinions, your ideas, your point of view.
Sure.
And I think that all, that's kind of the Venn diagram of, personal brand is right in the middle.
And speaking of brand, you have the Sunshine Shop, right?
Yeah, this guy. I think it's just like it's my hat.
So that's a kind of a philosophy brand. It's not Frank.
It started as Frank. And funny, the Creative Mornings was kind of like my first attempt at trying to connect my little like side project with my talks, and I don't think it quite landed, but it was a good learning of like how to not do it maybe. And I basically created a handful of items, a couple t-shirts, hat, tote bag, that kind of stuff. And I put them up. I gave myself a weekend, kind of a 2-weekend challenge of trying to spin up a web store and connect it to some kind of like warehousing and fulfillment service. And like, could I basically just kept going until I would get stuck, and then I would take a day off and, pick it up again and try to get unstuck.
Yeah.
And I did it in a super hacky way. WordPress, WooCommerce,
so this is before there was those platforms where it's just like upload your stuff and
well, so you could, I did decide I wanted more creative freedom, and I wanted to control as much as possible, and I wanted to spend as little as possible. So when, if you're getting into the like, the payment gateways and the big players in e-commerce, they're all going to take a couple points off of every transaction. Sure. And for sure it's easier, but also I know how to do, I could do CSS. I could, it was a good learning to like how to piece it all together, and eventually launch this shop. And it did pretty well at first, friends and family and, people wanted to support, and probably my mom was the first person to order, and
of course,
as she do. Thanks, Mom. And then that sort of like trickled, like the big spike in traffic. And then I was kind of looking at the analytics, and either you double down and start like doing an ad spend, right, or another strategy. And my wife and I at the time, we got an offer to put up a booth at USC. They were having like it's like a World Yoga Day or something. And some of the merch we were making was like wellness oriented, trying to make kind of like a wellness street brand. Right. And I think now there's like hundreds of them. Yeah. But at the time it felt like we were doing something very novel.
So you had inventory.
Yeah, a little bit. And we set up a booth. We put in a bunch of effort and money to get this thing looking really good. And we found out at the last minute that because it was on the college campus, and it was kind of like this, I don't remember exactly why, but there was a stipulation where we couldn't actually sell anything. Like it was mostly like a brand activation type of thing. So we're like, oh man, well that really sucks, because we put in this effort and we were hoping to sell some things. So what we did is, tried to find a creative solution. We kind of like QR coded stuff, and so you could buy on the phone. Yeah,
got it. Yeah.
And I think we made like 2 sales that day.
Oh boy!
And then we just looked at each other like, all right, this is hard. I don't want to spend my weekends sitting in booths, feeling. If you make 2 sales, like you're happy to make 2 sales, but it is kind of a bummer of a day.
For sure.
And there's a lot of other ways I'd love to spend my day. Go hiking, go to the beach.
Yes, 100%.
Exercise, whatever, like do anything else. So I try to take those like little lessons as, they're like pivot moments basically.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So we're definitely not doing that again. But how can we grow this thing? And I had been chatting with a few friends and a buddy of mine who was a product guy at, if you know that website, asos.com, ASOS. It's like a fashion brand out of the UK. And I had talked with him about, what would you do if you were in my shoes? Because I could see he had a lot of knowledge in, e-com and fashion and merchandise. And he's like, well, what has worked well for you? I'm like, well, we sent a little bit of product to some influencers, like creator type people. And this one particular, Instagram account reposted in her stories that, we sent some stuff, and she put a link to where to buy, and we sold a lot of stuff that weekend or that week. So he was like, okay, well that's kind of like your first signal of what you should probably figure out how to do more of. Like, okay, like I hadn't even thought of it that way. I was so focused and rigid on like making my own brand, I guess. So then came kind of a new strategy, which was helping people with large followings and engaged audiences. And then, if they have an artistic like twist to what they do, trying to help them create merch to help them monetize their audience a little bit. So that we've done that now probably with about 20, 25 different kind of artists or creators. Oh. And it's gone from like people in wellness world to authors, poets. I've had a few that I would call like meme shit posters, which like those are always.
So just anyone with the market already there, but not the merchandise.
Yeah.
And you were at a place with the merchandise, but no market.
Exactly.
And you brought them together.
Yeah.
And so now that your brand that exists as.
It's like a super brand, I guess, with like a bunch of.
It's a brand of merchandising.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And so somebody told me it was like the, forget if it's Jake Paul or Logan Paul, but it was like the Jake Paul model. I guess he's created a clothing brand where he creates kind of these sub landing pages for all the people that, it's kind of record labels have been doing this for years. They have pages for all the bands and
yeah.
So it's kind of that model, and the traffic really comes in from all the creators we work with. So there's a lot of upfront work in terms of like, it takes me like several weeks to kind of, craft and create, like, what are we even going to make? Is it going to be shirts, prints, coffee mugs? What are we doing here? And once we get that up, and then, people with large audiences are able to promote it a little bit, then it becomes a little more passive. For sure. Like I don't think anything is like truly passive.
Right.
There's still a little bit of effort, but it's mostly like 95% upfront work and then 5% kind of like tweaking it later. And if some of them are huge hits, some of them are misses, but you kind of learn a little bit as you go.
There's probably a little crossover too, I would imagine.
Oh, for sure. It makes me so happy to see, because everybody comes in, like the landing pages are all like artist specific. If that makes sense. And sometimes people will come in because they like artist A, and then they'll eventually uncover, these other people that they like, and then I'll see an order go through, and it's like, oh, they've, it's like 2 T-shirts from this person, a book from this other person,
nice.
A digital download from,
so
somebody
they're just
else.
exploring your whole palette of artists.
And that feels really cool to like create, I guess, kind of like community build in a way. Yeah. I guess that's really cool. That's a theme in my life.
Yeah, for sure. And another theme, you mentioned bands, and it's kind of funny because you started this wellness-oriented brand, Zen, some yoga, meditation, and then you are in punk bands.
Yeah, that's. Yeah, I think that was a bit of a pandemic response of a lot of people looking inward of like, when the world's falling apart, like what makes you happy in your life, what has like brought you joy. And for me, it was skateboarding and playing in bands. And I've never been a great musician. I identify a lot more with like promoter, merch guy,
really?
More than music. So some of my friends.
But you do play.
I do play.
What do you play?
I sing in the band.
Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, if you can call it singing, and that's super fun. I love that I've been able to get into that again in my 30s and have a music project that's kind of ongoing, because it taps into everything I love as a designer, like, making producing and making the music, getting in studios like these and recording and like putting something together, collaborating with people that, you admire. And then at the end of the day, like hopefully like releasing it and putting some artwork to it and, holding that like piece of vinyl in front of you and like, whoa, like we made it, like it didn't exist and now it's here.
Yeah.
And and someone will give you $20 for it. Like that's a pretty cool unlock in life. And I wish more people could experience that. Like sort of.
And what's the band?
The band's called Monk.
Monk.
Yeah. Again,
M-O-N-K.
M-O-N-K. Yeah. Again, I got this obsession with meditation and mindfulness when I was working at Headspace, and I kind of feared that I would lose it once I got a new job after that. And so that was a bit of a way, I think, of like holding on to some control and keeping that, kind of the Zen mindfulness thing going on in my life.
Nice.
But yeah, it's like a screaming hardcore band about topics about Zen and relaxation.
Yeah. Well, I mean, people say that a lot of that hardcore music is actually relaxing to them, and I think that there's some science behind that. So,
I think there's definitely some studies around like metalheads being like some of the most laid back and relaxed people that like they've learned how to like channel the chaos of life like in their music listening, and then for the rest of their the other 90% of it they're pretty well balanced.
Yeah, but if you aren't in that state, it just sounds sounds like a car wreck. Well, totally. So we're gonna need to wrap it up, but I just wanted to see if there was anything else, just anything that you're thinking about these days. Any?
Yeah, I mean, I think LA had a pretty big moment, about 10 years ago with the Silicon Beach kind of movement, and I keep thinking about like when is that next wave gonna happen, or is it just like a slow build? And I think we're still seeing it. But yeah, I personally just love to see that kind of like 2.0 Silicon Beach thing happen again, or see some of these Bay Area companies move into here a lot more, because I think we have so much talent. And entertainment industry is full of a lot of people you might not think would fit in like a product or ad agency environment. But think about the motion designers and the animators and like people with insane amounts of creativity with just a little kind of adjustment of how they approach the work would probably be really good fits for our kind of like tech industry.
Right. So take our industry that is here and cross-pollinate it with the tech industry.
And like from what I hear, it seems like entertainment's in a pretty tough spot lately. I think it's gotten a little bit better, but the union stuff, they were on strike for quite a while, and that's kind of not that I don't have a solution for sure, but it's in the back of my mind of like there's an opportunity there, and it'd be cool to see something happen with that.
Yeah. So like tech come in and fill that void a little bit.
Yeah. And more crossover between, you've got your Netflixes and like your Hulu, Amazon, like these are all companies that operate here that are like where tech meets media.
For sure.
And I think it's special for that, because I'm in the Bay Area quite a bit, and I don't really see the media component happening there.
Right.
Like LA's got the content.
Interesting. Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, it was great to talk to you, and we'll see you on the Slack channel.
For sure.
Cool.
Thanks so much.
Yep. And that wraps up the inaugural issue of the Los Angeles Design and Dev podcast. I want to thank our sponsor, EMA Members Lounge and Social Club, for letting us use their amazing podcast studio. Visit EMA Members, that's IMA members.com, and be sure to mention Los Angeles Design and Dev for a special offer on membership. And obviously a big thanks to Mr. Frank Bach for dropping by today. You can check out Frank's merch along with other creators at sunshineshop.la. And if you're into hardcore music with a Zen twist, check out his band Monk at monk.la. And of course, a big thank you to you for making it to the end of my very first podcast. We've got plenty more Angelino designers and devs to talk to, so stay tuned. And if you or someone you know wants to be a guest, just visit laddpodcast.com and let me know. Ciao.